Recording. Kevin, turn on your camera, please. Hope my voice is clear for everyone. Okay. So the morning session, we started the new chapter, local government. Local government. Okay. As we discussed in the morning session, we know that India is a federation. Okay. And the governments, I mean the central and state governments, sometimes they will fail to maintain the administration of all the nook and corner of the country. Okay. To assist this central and the state governments, one more level of government is necessary in a country like India. That's what the local government. Local government. Okay. Local government is basically giving more chances to the people to participate in the decision making of the country. Clear? Okay, it's a kind of direct democracy. Direct democracy. We can say that local self-government or local governments are an example for a kind of a sort of direct democracy, because people have all chances to participate in the decision making directly. Okay, so we know that morning session we discussed that Sabha and Samiti. Sabha and Samiti. Later, Panchayats. Okay, the constitute of five members. Five members. Finally, we discussed about it was Lord Ripon. Lord Ripon, the man, the viceroy of India at that time. Okay, 1880s. 1880s, the person. He basically give more importance for this local government, and he gave a name for that. What is that? Local boards. What is that? Local boards. Okay, last point that what we discussed in the morning session. The local boards. Now write down. Write down. Okay. So you wrote about advantage of local government, right? It is so near to the people too. It is the level of government that common citizen can be involved in decision making concerning their lives, their needs, and above all their development, right? Okay. Next point. I think this is the last point. In modern times, elected local government bodies were created after 1882. Lord Ripon, who was Viceroy of India at that time, took the initiative in creating these bodies. They were called the local boards, right? Last point. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Continuation. Government of India Act of 1919. Government of India Act of 1919. 1919. Government of India Act of 1919. Village panchayats. Village panchayats were established. Village panchayats were established in a number of provinces. In a number of provinces. In the number of provinces. This trend continued after the Government of India Act. This trend continued after the Government of India Act of 1935. 1935. So I want to remember one thing. What is that? 1919 and 1935. At that time, we were under the control of the Britishers. Clear? So I already told you that it was Lord Ripon. Lord Ripon, he did use this local boats. And
Sir,
tell me.
can you repeat this point again, sir?
Number one. Last point, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right on. Government of India Act of 1919. Village panchayats were established in a number of provinces. This trend continued after the Government of India Act of 1935. 1935. Okay. So there are numerous local self-governments or these local bodies started in different provinces under the British control. Clear? And this kind of governments again they started in different provinces and different areas in India. In India, okay. This trend continued after the Government of India Act of 1935. So, Government of India Act of 1935 means that act is basically giving importance for administrative changes in India. Clear? Administrative changes in India. This act also made by the British people. Okay. Next sentence. Panchayats were looked upon as instruments. Panchayats were looked upon as instruments of decentralization and participatory democracy. Participatory
Can you
democracy.
repeat it again?
Repeating. Panchayats were looked upon as instruments of decentralization. Okay. And participatory democracy. Participatory democracy. So, panchayats that turned as an institution, okay, that basically giving importance for decentralization of power and participatory democracy. Chances are there for everyone to participate in the decision making. So, what do you mean by the term decentralization of power? Decentralization of power. What is that?
It's a division of power among different bodies.
Okay. So we know that in a monarchy or in a dictatorial one, okay, or a unitary government system, only a group of people is able to enjoy the power, right? Only a group of people, a few people, they are able to enjoy the power there. Okay. But in a local self-administrative system, the power is decentralized. There are numerous these kind of local bodies are there in the country. Lakhs of local self-governments are there. So even the common man also will get a chance to participate in the decision making. That's why we can say power is decentralized. Power is not controlled by a few people, but it can be controlled by numerous people. Clear or not? That's what decentralization. And participatory democracy. What do you mean by that? Participatory democracy. More people can participate in the democratic process. Not only one or two people, not only 100, not only 1,000, crores of people in our country. Basically, they are participating in the decision making of government. Okay, so participation is there. Participatory democracy. Clear? They're clear? So these are important aspects of local self-government. Write down, next point. When the constitution was prepared, when the constitution was prepared, when the constitution was prepared, the subject of local government was assigned to, when the constitution was prepared, the subject of local government was assigned to the states. When the constitution was prepared, the subject of local government was assigned to the states. Assigned to the states. It was also mentioned in the directive principles. It was also mentioned in the directive principles. Directive principles as one of the policy. As one of the policy. Directives to all governments in the country. Okay. So in the constitution, at the time of the preparation of the constitution, the subject of local government was assigned to the state governments, and it is included in the directive principle of the state policy also. Okay, clear or not? As per that, the state government want maintain the local governments. Okay, and the powers of the local governments is basically determined by the state governments, at the time of the making of the Indian Constitution. Okay, next one, being a part of the directive principles of state policy, being a part of the directive principles of state policy, directive principles of state policy, this provision of the constitution, was non-justiciable and primarily advisory in its nature. Okay. So here the sentence says that being a part of the directive principles of the state policy, this provision of the constitution was non-justiciable as primarily advisory in its nature. So the government or the constitution give powers to the state government to discuss or fix the powers of the local self-government. Okay, basically it is non-justiciable, it seems there. Okay, because the local self-governments also want to get some special powers that we will discuss. Okay, next one, the subject of local government, the subject of local governments, including panchayats, did not receive adequate importance in the constitution. Why? Adequate importance in the constitution. Why? Adequate importance in the constitution. Why? Okay, what is the question? The subject of local government, including panchayats, did not receive adequate importance in the constitution. Why? So in the constitution, there is no special provisions for the local self-government. Why it is so? Okay, there are 2 points are there. Write down. Firstly, the turmoil, T-U-R-M-I-L, turmoil, means problems or troubles, turmoil, due to the partition, resulted in a strong inclination in the constitution. Resulted in a strong unitary inclination. unitary inclination in the constitution.
So
Unitary
Sorry.
inclination, INCLINATION, inclination. Okay. In the constitution, full stop. Nehru himself looked upon extreme localism as a threat to unity and integration of the nation. As a threat to unity and integration of the nation. Okay. So after 1935, there are numerous local self-governments were formed all around the country. Okay. But after 1947, after our independence, what happened? The country, it was divided into two. So the constitution gave more importance for the union government than the state or the local self-governments. Clear? Okay, the constitution give more importance for the union government, the central government. Okay. At the same time, the the Prime Minister of India at that time, Jawaharlal Nehru, he is a critic of giving more powers to local regions. Okay, because he is against extreme localization, which means one group of people, they believe that their locality want to develop and they are against other areas in the country. It will create a problem for the unity and integrity of the nation. That was the idea of Jawaharlal Nehru. So he's a critic of localization or local governments. Clear? So there is no special provisions mentioned in the constitution or special care for the local governments. Is the idea clear? Basically, this idea is adopted by the Britishers. Lord Ripon, we know that, right? Okay, clear. And in 1990 and in 1935 also, various local boards were formed in India. And in the Constitution of India, the local governments came under the state. Okay, and the state governments started fixing the jurisdiction or powers for the local self-governments. And nothing special provision is mentioned in the constitution. And the constitution maker says that it is not a justiciable one, it seems there. Want to give some more powers. So what happened actually in India at the time of independence, due to partition, the constitution makers, they give more importance for the unitary government. I mean, the union government. Clear or not? Give less importance for the local governments there. At the same time, the Prime Minister of that time, Jawaharlal Nehru, also against this local government or localization. Okay, as per his comment, we can say that the local governments can create threat to the unity and integrity of the nation. Okay, that's what the comment or that was the idea of Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, so there is no much provisions that included in the constitution. Secondly, write down. Secondly, there was a powerful voice in the Constituent Assembly. There was a powerful voice in the Constituent Assembly led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Which felt that
So can you repeat it?
you're repeating. Secondly, there was a powerful voice in the Constituent Assembly led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which felt that Secondly, there was a powerful voice by the Constituent Assembly led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which felt that the faction, and caste-ridden nature of rural society, the faction and caste-ridden nature, CASTERIDDEN, caste-ridden nature of rural society would defeat the noble purpose of local government, at the rural level. Okay. So next comment that made by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he says that, or he told that, at that time Indian society is a caste-based society, right? So he made a comment. What is that? If local self-governments are there, some group of people will make use of that. Rich, high caste people will make use of the local self-government, and they will reap the benefits. Okay, so don't want to give adequate or much importance for local self-governments. That's what the idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So Nehru is against that, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also against that. Okay, so that's up to the independence, the story of local self-government, up to the time of independence. Next down, write down local governments in independent India. Local governments in independent India. Local governments in independent India. Okay. Local governments in independent India. First point, local governments got a boost. Local governments got a boost after the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts. Local governments got a boost out of the 73rd and 74th Constitution Amendment Acts. Constitution Amendment Acts. Okay, so we want to study these two amendments elaborately, the 73rd Amendment and the 74th Amendment. Repeating the point one more time for you. Local governments got a boost after the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts. Next point, first in the line was the Community Development Program in 1952. The Community Development Program in 1952. Which sought to promote
So program in what year?
program in 1952, 1952. Which sought to promote people's participation in local development in a range of activities. In this background, A three-tier Panchayati Raj system. A three-tier, T-I-E-R. A three-tier, T-I-E-R. A three-tier Panchayati Raj system of local government was recommended. A three-tier Panchayati Raj system of local government was recommended for the rural areas. Recommended for the rural areas. In some states like Gujarat and Maharashtra, in some states like Gujarat and Maharashtra, adopted the system of elected local bodies around 1960. Adopted the system of elected local bodies around 1960. Around 1960. Around 1960. Okay, so only two states Panchayati Raj system was adopted firstly by the two states Gujarat and Maharashtra. Okay, so we will discuss that later. So today's notes, please read that. Abhilash, please read that. What is a local government? You start from there. Everyone, please check that all these things are perfect or not. Any mistakes means you can ask me now. Fast.
What is local government? Local government is the government at the village and district level. Rural
Okay.
areas, village panchayats, block panchayats, and district panchayats. And urban areas, municipalities, and municipal corporation. This
Okay.
government is the closest to the common people. Involves
Okay.
day-to-day life and problems of ordinary citizens. Believes
Okay.
local knowledge and local interests are essential ingredients for democratic decision making. Also necessary for efficient and people-friendly administration.
Okay, fine. So next one, Kevin. Next subheading, what is that?
Sir, advantages of local government.
Read.
It is very near to the people, convenient for people to approach the local government for solving their problems both quickly and with minimum cost, can be very effective in protecting the local interests of the people. It is in the level of the local government. It is the level of local government that common citizens can be involved in the decision making concerning their life needs and above all the development.
Very good, fine. Okay, Amal Roshan, balance. Next subheading.
Sir,
Next subheading, what is that?
Government of India 1990.
No, before that. So Amal Roshan, please check that. Growth of local government in India is there in your note? Amal. Amal, please send your notes. Please send your notes to me today itself. I want to see
Yes,
that.
sir. I will.
What?
Growth of local government now.
Then read.
Self-government governing village communities existed
Ah.
in India from the earliest times in the form of sabhas.
Okay, good.
In the course of times, these village bodies took the shape of the panchayats
Hmm.
and assembly of 5%.
Okay.
This panchayats resolves issues at village level.
Hmm. Okay.
In modern times, elected local government bodies were created.
Elected local government bodies, BODIES,
Bodies,
right? Ah.
yes, bodies were created after 1882. Lord Ripon, who was the Viceroy of India at that time, took the initiative and created these bodies. They were called the local boards.
Local boards, correct. Then what you told is correct. Government of India Act of 1919. Okay, Abhilash, please read that and finish it.
Government of India Act of 1919 village panchayats were established in a number of provinces. This trend continued after the Government of India Act of 1935. Panchayats were looked upon as instruments of decentralization and participatory democracy. When the
Okay.
constitution was prepared, the subject of local government was assigned to the state. It was also assigned to the directive principles as one of the policy directives to all governments in the country. Being a part of the directive principle of the state policy, this provision of the constitution was non-justiciable and primarily advisory in its nature. The subject of local governments, including panchayats, did not receive adequate importance in the constitution. Why? Firstly, the turmoil due to the partition resulted in a strong unitary inclination in the constitution. Nehru himself looked upon extreme localization as a threat to unity and integration of the nation. Secondly, there was a powerful voice in the Constituent Assembly led by Dr. V.R. Ambedkar, which felt that the faction and caste-ridden nature of rural society would defeat the noble purpose of local government at the rural level.
Okay.
Local self-government in independent India. Local government got a boost after the 73rd and 74th Constitution Amendment Act. First in the line was the Community Development Program 1952, which sought to promote people's participation in local development in a range of activities. In this background, a three-tiered system, Panchayati Raj system of
Three-tier Panchayati Raj system, right?
Raj system of local
Three-tier in
government.
the sense of 3 levels. Okay, come on.
Raj system of local government was recommended for rural areas in some states that, like Gujarat and Maharashtra, adopted the system of elected local bodies around 1960.
Okay, fine. Next one. Okay, again, so many points are there to complete. Okay, then we will finish that in the next class. There, okay. You are tired, I think so. Are you? Are you? No. So can write 2-3 more points, right? Yes or no? Okay, right on. Why only few states adopted and others failed to adopt? Why only few states adopted and others failed to adopt it? Sorry, failed to adopt the Panchayati Raj system. The question: why only few states adopted and others failed to adopt the Panchayati Raj system? First point: because local bodies did not have enough powers. Because local bodies did not have enough powers and functions to look after the local development. To look after the local development.
Sir, can you repeat it again?
Okay, repeating. Because local bodies did not have enough powers and functions to look after the local development. The local development. They were very much dependent. They were very much dependent they were very much dependent on the state and central governments, on the state and central governments. They were very much dependent on the state and central governments for financial assistance. For financial assistance. For financial assistance. Okay. Many states did not think it necessary. many states did not think it is necessary to establish elected local bodies. To establish elected local bodies. Next sentence or next point. Local bodies were dissolved. Local bodies were dissolved. And the local governments was handed over to government officers. Local bodies were dissolved and the local government was handed over to government officers. Government officers. Next point. Many states had indirect elections. Many states had indirect elections to the local bodies. Elections to the local bodies were postponed from time to time. Sorry, please check the points there. One point is like this, right? Many states had indirect election to most local bodies, right? The last point is like this. In many states, elections to local bodies were postponed from time to time. Clear? If any mistake is there, please correct it. Last 2 points, please check that. Second last point is like this. Many states had indirect elections to most local bodies. Last point is like this. In many states, elections to the local bodies were postponed from time to time. Okay? Done.
Sir, can you tell the second last point once more?
Many states had indirect elections. Indirect elections. Okay, to most local bodies. Done. Last point is like this. In many states, elections to the local bodies were postponed from time to time. Okay. So enough today, right? Then we will meet in the next class. Please read and learn the things that what we discussed today. Okay. So we want to discuss that from the textbook also. So this is the background. These are the things basically we want to know. Okay. Clear? So you got an idea about local self-government. What is a local self-government? When it started in India? What is the historical background? What is the historical background? Okay. That clear for you? These things are clear for you or not?
Yes, sir.
If it is not
Yes,
so, okay, please, you can ask questions again, no problem. Okay, we will meet in the next session. Thank you.